All right, we are live for episode 3 of Revenue Talent Talks, and I am here with, I think, my favorite CMO on LinkedIn,
Oh,
Andrea Kayal from Electric. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on today. I really, really appreciate your time. The goal of today is to help anyone out there who's looking to upskill themselves, get to the next level, get some interview advice, just share some free advice for the community. And I think today we're going to focus on a little bit of like what it takes to get to that CXO level, right?
yeah.
Um, so first off, I have a question that I ask everyone that I want to hear from you. I mean, you're from Wayne, New Jersey, and I'm from Montville, so grew up the town next
Yeah.
door. And maybe it's a place I know, but tell me about your first job ever. Like
Oh, my first job
when
ever.
you first had to like kind of go get a job and your first paycheck in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, okay, so it was a CVS pharmacy technician.
Okay.
Um, I that was, like to this day, was still the hardest job I ever had. It's like you have to count medication for people who are sick. I don't know why they would leave that in the hands of a 17-year-old. I mean, like, I'm sure it was responsible, but, like, probably not a great thing to give a child. Um, and then the second thing is, like, you had to deal with the insurance. I mean, people come in raging when they don't get when it's not covered. So,
Rate that they're supposed to get their copay, right?
yeah, they're like, "Why is this $500?" I'm like, I that your insurance says that." And no, it was something else. So, yeah, I have not had a harder job since the first one.
What not a harder job than that. What did you take away anything? Did you have, like, a good learning from it, or
I thought it would make me more patient, but, like, no, I'm not a patient person. So, I know I don't have any learnings from that job.
we're gonna talk about your soccer career in a little while, so we'll get to that patience and perseverance maybe. So maybe a good way to kinda get to know you a little bit, one of the questions from, one of our listeners was, how who are you and how did you get to where you are today?
Who
So
am
kind
I?
of a yeah, brief little
Oh,
overview of who you are and how'd you get to where
alright,
you are.
well, I have, like, my version of it, then I have, like, my family and my wife's version of it, which is probably very different than what I'll tell you. But I grew up in Jersey, Jersey girl at my core, I curse a lot. Very close to my friends and family from the area still. I went to Michigan, I played soccer, had a brief stint when I was 18 on the US national team, which was pretty awesome. Had an awesome first job at an agency called Octagon, where I traveled around the country in BMWs and it was like road rules. I think I drank in every bar in the country, which was, that's what you want to do when you're 22. Also, spent a period of time while I was at Octagon on another account, which was MasterCard on the 2006 World Cup. So I was in Germany for 6 months. So that was pretty sick. And part of that job, I was a Pele's assistant, which again, I don't know the age group of people on the call, but Pele's a big deal. He's like the best soccer player on the planet. Yeah, he like we went around, did signings with him, and I juggled with him in the Four Seasons. And uh, they had a really cool thing where like a ZDF, which is like the ABC of Germany, wanted him to like pick out all of his favorite goals from the tournament. So I like sat with him on the couch while we did that. So like, yeah, those memories are indelible. I'm very happy I was able to do that. When I like really thought long and hard about where I wanted to be, which was in tech. I went back and got my MBA because I knew at some point I might need those skills. Because when I was at Michigan, I was just doing keg stands. I wasn't really like paying attention. I was like, okay, I actually think I need the business acumen to like level up a little bit here. So I went back to business school, graduated, and then I got into tech, and I've been doing that in New York for the last I don't know 15 years. So been a pretty fun ride.
I wanna jump back into you, and you mentioned your mom. I think she's actually listening today. She reshared our post, so
No,
maybe
oh
she's
my
on.
god, I
Yeah,
bet
we'll
she's a
find out maybe
the fake
afterwards,
Andrea fan. I think all moms are, but she loves it.
as they should be. So, when you were back at University of Michigan, I read into your career a little bit. You were voted MVP by your team a few times,
Oh,
um,
wow. I
but
forgot.
you were also known for your maybe the right way to put it is communication on the field. Uh,
Well,
can you talk about a little bit though of like the lessons maybe you did learn on the field and how you took them into the business world with you early in your career and maybe even later in your career?
yeah, I know, like, there's this, like, concept that, like, playing a sport is, like, gives you, like, a lot of the skills you need to as like, a leader in the future. It is true. I felt like I was captain for the 2 years I was there, which again, if you think about, like, in my 20s and, like, being captain of a team, you're still, like, young, but I took that job very seriously because I cared a lot about winning. So, I I was sort of the mouth on the team, directing people where to go, and I think my team now would tell you, the people that I serve would tell you that I still pretty big presence, really trying to tell people how I think best to move forward. And so I definitely took a lot of those skills on the field, and apply them, today.
And what about like work ethic to get to where you are? I mean, we talked a lot the last two episodes about like perseverance and motivation. I mean, did you take that with you through your career?
Yeah. I mean, like, these jobs are hard, especially, like a high growth tech companies. You kind of need to persevere. There's no other way. As in Michigan, we had like, um, sometimes like training at 4 o'clock in the morning. And cause that's the only time we get like the gym time. And then you'd have to go to class in the freezing cold. And then, have to go back to practice and then study table, which was basically like school after school. It was like, ugh, it was the pits. But, the person that I am today is because I just said like, this is the shit we got to get done. And so that's how I feel when I'm in these roles. I care deeply and very loyal to the companies I work for. I care about the CEOs and the VCs who've put all the money into these businesses. So yeah, I just, I kind of keep my head down and every day new challenge, but that's kind of the environment I thrive in.
Well, Andrea, this isn't your first go at it. You're a three-time CMO, right?
Yeah.
So
I
what one of the questions from one of our marketers were when you first get into this CMO role or any
Mhm.
marketing leadership role, how do you kind of assess the landscape and figure out what's working, what's not working? What do you do in your first 30 or 60 days?
Yeah, I actually send a spreadsheet out to all companies that I work for. Well, I did that in my last two roles, asking the CEO or someone at the company to fill them out, which like sounds pretty like obnoxious because I'm the one interviewing. She wrote an article about this on LinkedIn, which I'll share with you after. Maybe you could put it in the comments, but it's called like interview companies with the same rigor they use to interview you. And that spreadsheet has about like 25 questions on it. And it's like all about the health of the business, starting everything from customer NPS, like the health of the customers. Like, do the customers actually like the product or is the CEO selling you into the business? Team, that's the second thing. So first customers, like if the customers don't like the product, it doesn't matter who works there because it's not going to work if the customers like really can't stand it. So customers, then the team, which is like, tell me how often your employees a trip from your companies. Like I look at the Glassdoor reviews. I guarantee you there's a high correlation between successful companies and high Glassdoor reviews because I think, the people who make the team go matter a lot in terms of whether or not that company's going to be successful. And then everything from like the business metrics, like what is your sales pipeline coverage? Like what are your win rates? What are the sales cycles? What are your ACVs? What is your LTV to CAC? Like millions of metrics questions. So I send the spreadsheet out. I'm like, answer these please, because I want to know if the company I'm joining is going to be set me up for success. You could be the best marketer on the planet, great ideas, like very smart in terms of your growth and forecasting. But if the company sucks, the people hate it, and the metrics are all backwards, you can't, it's not going to work. So I'd say like first, just like really like assessing the health of the business is number one.
Do you ever dig into like as specific as like your budget and budgets you'll be given,
Hell yeah. If I could
salaries
get
for team members?
Yeah, I mean, I usually tell them what I want the budget to be, and like part of being a CMO, which is different from being a VP of marketing or just marketing IC, is that you should be coming up with a plan that is an investable thesis. You should say you need to give me X amount of money because I'm going to deliver this to the business, and so you get the CEO and the CFO excited about the budget you share with them, not the other way around. Not like, here's your budget. What can you do with it? It's like, no, you're a CMO. You tell them how much money you need and where, based on where they want to go. If the CEO says to me, like Ryan did, Andrew, I want to double the business every year. I'm like, no problem. I got you. Here's how much it's going to cost though. And then, because my job is a hedge fund manager, I just put the money in. It's like a big portfolio exercise. I put it, well, my head of growth does where we're going to make more money. Um, so yeah, you need to be telling them why they should be giving you the money and where it's gonna be going.
Well, we talked about this a little bit actually last time. So you mentioned hedge fund manager, and we like we're chit chatting about skills you didn't think you would need
Yeah,
as a marketer, but to get to the C suite, you told me you feel like you do need a different set of skills, and you
yeah,
even teach a class on it, right? Can you talk a little bit
yeah,
maybe about that and what those skills might be?
yeah, so dean of CMO school at Pavilion, which is basically like we're all the nationwide group now where all the revenue leaders kind of belong and we share like practical advice. But CMO school is like a school I run inside of that. And like there's always like 100 to like 150 marketers in every quarter who are like trying to get certified for this. But the class I teach is actually nothing to do with marketing. The other instructors I have, which are like awesome CMOs from other companies like Kyle Lisi, who's at Seismic, Udi Lagore, who's at Gong, really awesome practitioners who teach about some of the more practical marketing things. Mine is on the C, which is, like CMO. I think there's 50% of your time is spent on the M, 50% of your time is spent on the C. In some cases, actually, there's more time being spent on the C. And the C is like a dozen things that I just well, it's not that I wish I had known sooner in my life. I picked up the skills and it's been just fine. But if you know this earlier on in your career, that the skills you need to be chief marketing officer are 50% being a good marketer, 50% being a good business leader. And that includes things like peripheral vision or so that's like knowing what your competitors are doing around you. That's foresight. Do you know that when you're an $8 million business, do you know how to get to 80 million? Do you know how to 10x the company? You really need to like look forward there. It's things like knowing. One on peripheral vision is like another example is like, do you know that you should be reading S1s of your competitors to know how they grow? Uh, I found out recently, or when I was at another company, that fastest the way that one of our competitors was growing, the fastest way that they were growing was through a product we hadn't even considered building. And I'm like, okay, that's like important part of like the growth strategy. We need to consider it. And it was like a capital line and we were a POS company. It's other things like business metrics, not team metrics. It's like, you need to know what you need the gross margin to be, the EBITDA, things that are outside of your control, you're responsible for. Things like culture, should you open up another office, things like that. And then I'd say the last is, and for marketing specifically, you are investing the company's money. So you're not just creating like the marketing plan, you're creating uh, a product by which you're trying to sell back into the company so they give you more money. So, you have to be good at like kind of marketing and selling that thing as well. So, yeah, so the C is much just as important as the M. So I think it's, critical for marketers to know that sooner than later so they can acquire those skills.
Well, off of like as you grew your career and maybe looking back, you'd have a different answer on this. Like, what role in marketing do you feel like you could acquire most of those skills the fastest? Is it on the demand side, product marketing, field marketing, maybe? Like, where do you think like the next generation of CMOs might be coming out of in marketing?
Well, obviously I'm biased because I grew up on the demand side, but I would just say you need to be just a good manager of human beings because it, excuse me, you should double down on the thing you are strong at. I am not strong on the brand side, but I have a wonderful VP of brand that I hired who I convinced to take this journey with me. Say, like, excuse me, I think we have a lot of really awesome foundational elements of what a great brand here could be. And like, I know it when I see it. Like, we're going through a brand refresh, which we're going to launch on the 28th. And it is just so beautiful the way we talk about the thing it is we have and how we look. But I couldn't have done it on my own. So I hired for it. So I would say,
Yeah.
whether you're in demand or you're like sort of on the brand side and communications, I, I would say if you're not necessarily strong in demand, you need to know how to hire a 5-star growth person. Even though, by the way, I'm good at demand, I still hired a 5-star growth person because my job now is more about managing people. So that's kind of the advice. If you're, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
but be very good at hiring for it.
Double down on your strengths, hire for your weaknesses.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. That was way better and more articulate than I could say, Chris. Thank you.
I know you mentioned, the Pavilion runs a school and stuff, and what are maybe some ways before you started teaching at, Pavilion that you were able to invest in yourself and, acquire some of these skills that you needed to get to where you are today?
I did this like a lot of my own networking. I reached out to people who had titles that I wanted, like this one, or head of growth, or um, I did a lot of my own like navigating. through that. We didn't have companies like, like Captivate who kind of like uh put up these forums that where you could just like listen and learn and connect and like network through. It was like kind of like you're on your own island. So I would just say put in the work, like as much as people don't want to network, it is absolutely critical. By the way, I have CMOs, VPs of marketing attend our marketing meetings to kind of like share what they're doing, awesome campaign ideas, things like this. People from
Yep.
all over every different company. Every single one of them says you have to network and just make sure you're good at like connecting the dots. Today, all of my directors are like required to talk to people at companies they admire in their roles to learn about what it is they're doing. So I don't know. There's no shortcut to that. You kind of got to do the work.
Invest in yourself, work hard,
Yeah,
put in the
right, yeah,
simple
there's,
formula.
like yeah, it's not, like, novel, just you gotta hustle.
Well, I mean, you talked about being good at hiring, and that's obviously what we like to talk about, and it's like what we do. But
Yeah,
if there's somebody out there that's interviewing right now, and maybe they're more junior in their career or transitioning, maybe looking to take their next step and not a manager yet, um, what's some advice that you'd give that you've seen a revenue professional in general like do wrong on the interview, and like what they really should be bringing to the table?
you need to know your fucking numbers. I mean, I can't tell you how hard it is for people to articulate this. This is not there are no surprises here. If I am hiring you to carry a number or do anything related to pipeline or bookings or whatever, and you don't have any slides or anything that talk about how to get there, that's like a no. So anyway, those are just like table stakes stuff that everybody needs to do.
Andrew, do you ever have I put a post up the other week about having a brag book. Do you ever have like a brag book of any like stuff you had printed up from your earlier jobs that you accomplished and stuff? Or
You
do you
know,
ever
first of all, I love this idea. I do have slides because in the last two roles, I've had to present to the executive team. So yes, I guess I do have a brag book about what I've accomplished, mainly because what they're buying is my track record of success. If I cannot articulate that, they're not going to buy it. So you need one.
build a brag book? Coming
Build
from
a brag.
somebody who you manage sales professionals too, right? You manage a BDR team.
Yeah, I have the SDRs and a BD team. So
So if you were an
you need a
SDR, if
brag
you're a
book.
demand generation manager, customer success, anyone out there, build a
But,
brag book.
Chris, like, also, I don't wanna speak for my director of product marketing or my VP of brand or whatever, but, like, they have brag books that they too have now because of electric, because of the rigor we put around the brand side of the business. So it's not even the demand or, like, numbers carrying people. It's like, what did you do in your job that shows me that you're going to make an impact at this new job? You have to be able to articulate that in a way. You can't just be the activities you've done. You can't just say, "Oh, we did 5 case studies. Oh, we did work on sales enablement stuff." I don't give a shit. What did that do? How did that move the needle? Those are the things that those people still need to articulate because in 2022 and beyond, like those are the requirements.
It's funny because I think people only think of like brag. Well, I think most people haven't heard of a brag book, but they only think about that when
Mhm.
they're looking for a job, as opposed to like build your accomplishments as you're accomplishing them and doing well in your
100%.
job. Your company might get acquired. You might cash out and not work for a year and then have to like you might not be able to get that data anymore, or you might forget about
100%.
an award you
No,
won. So yeah, build it as you're
it's
going along.
such good advice, Chris. It's such good advice. But by the way, like if you have a good manager, like you're having to document it every quarter. Anyway, like we have QBRs, marketing QBRs. Every single person has to put a deck together on what they did and how they're going to use that information to look forward. So if you're working for somebody or even if you're not working for somebody who's kind of requiring this, do it yourself. What did you do over the quarter and how are you going to use it to move forward? And you'll always have a breath.
What about flipping it around from the interview to the interviewer side? If there's a hiring manager out there and they're looking to develop those really good skills around finding talent, what's the advice you'd give them that you always kind of stuck to during your interview process? Do you have any tricks or secret questions? Maybe everyone asks what the best interview questions are.
I hire for passion, curiosity, and grit. I also have a strict policy on what we're not hiring for, and that is like your your school resume because I also think that it's discriminatory to be
Yeah.
hiring on pedigree. Like only
Yep.
30% of the country has a degree. So right there, it's a problem. Not everybody was fortunate. My wife was not able to get her degree. She was not uh privileged enough to get one. She had other competing priorities like how am I going to finance this? Who's going to take me to school?
Yep.
Those kinds of things. She just couldn't do it. So I don't hire for that. Intellect is not hard to suss out, but through a simple questions like, have you done this job before? Or uh, like, you know, do you think this person can do the job? The harder thing to hire for is, are you hiring a good human being? We hire
Mm.
great humans on this team. So I also have a link. Um, it was a Fast Company article that got published that I talked about like hire good people, not just smart ones. There's a whole list of interview questions I have in there, Chris. I'll also share that about how you hire for good people. By the way, simply like, do they bring their pet to the interview? Like, I love that. I want to know that they have somebody to care for. Um, I mean, like, as absurd as that sounds, like, it's true. It's something about, like, I don't know, the warmth of that person being able to, like, care for a pet. Okay, if you don't have a pet, I'm not you're also getting hired,
Well,
but, like
no, I agree with you. I think it's especially on the marketing side. I had feedback this morning. Somebody like didn't give, they didn't share something personal about themselves, and it was very robotic. And the feedback from the hiring manager was almost like, "You're a story. This person's going to be a storyteller for us.
storytell
Like
yeah,
we need to get
right.
a little bit out of them and feel like
Yeah,
they could tell our story, but we want to see them tell their own."
absolutely, like, it might be a requirement for the job, but do you know that 99% of what we're doing in these roles, especially for marketing jobs, is just collaborating with each other? It's like bringing creative ideas, inspiring each other, like being nice to each other, like that's most of the job. The rest for someone like Joanne Martin, who's on my team, incredibly creative, or like Hannah or Danny, are design out of design. These people are naturally creative, but what helps them become the best at what they do is because they have a team that they can work with that helps kind of inspire that. So I think the EQ side of hiring is everything. So that's what I try to look for.
What about one? I have a couple more personal questions for you, but what about one more tip for a first time manager out there?
A first-time manager. Get very good at, um, if you don't have this at the highest level, like try to create your own semblance of it, which is just the OKR model. Your employees absolutely need direction, very clear direction on what you want them focused on so that you can go back at the review and look to those things to see if they've accomplished it. Do not having like nebulous goals and initiatives that you don't check in on is like a recipe for disaster when you're trying to help that person manage their career. So I would just say make sure you set a very clear, um, give them a very clear understanding of your expectations. And like I said, I think the easiest way that that manifests is throughout the OKRs, which are just like,
Yep.
we think by the end of the quarter we should achieve this. Have you done it or not? Try to make the conversation like more binary. Yes, you've accomplished this, or no, you haven't. To take kind of the subjectivity out of their performance out of it. So that's one way I would think to manage.
Perfect. This is gonna be this one, I don't know, you might offend a few people. We have a lot of people in common, and I know you are one of, best connected people in SaaS, at least in New York. Um, this is from our community. Who are some of your favorite revenue leaders out there right now? Who should people
Oh
follow?
my God. My favorite revenue leaders. Well, Kyle Lacey, I love. He always has like very practical LinkedIn tips that aren't like novellas. They're just like when that I'm very much aligned to. He does a lot on the people side of management and like caring for the whole person and those kinds of things. They're like very practical tips. Also, very practical marketing tips. So, like, uh, like people like him and I have made mistakes for so many years that like this is what not to do also. So I love following him. Udi, I'm gonna butcher his last name, but I think it's like Liquor or something like this from Gong. He has great posts, also the people side of him. He's gay. I'm also gay, so I appreciate his posts helping the LGBTQ community kind of feel safer to share more about who they are and their like their whole self to work. So I appreciate kind of that side of it. Um, there's tons of others, but I am like failing to recall. Obviously, like Sam
Well,
Jacobs, he's a revenue leader. He's not anymore, but he CEO at Pavilion. Um,
I
my
think
God.
the important thing is the people that you mentioned seem like really practical leaders that
Yeah.
have done this a few times. Not there's a lot of, content out there,
Yeah.
posted by people that might not have had the success that the individuals you mentioned have.
Yeah, and they, well, definitely like the posting what not to do, I also think is like a big, big piece of this puzzle, which is like there's a lot of things marketers can do, but like, you save lots of money when you like don't do things that, have been tried and true. So I like the marketing fails stuff, like more of the don't do
That's
this.
actually my next question for you. If you want to share, what
Yeah.
was your biggest marketing success and what was maybe your biggest fail?
Okay, this is funny. So, but hopefully my CEO is not tuning in. Like, I just had my performance review, like 2 hours ago. So I already got through the performance review. So even if he hears it, it's okay. He can't use it against me. And at least this for the next 6 months. We did like a Cybertruck giveaway. He's like, it's gonna be gangbusters. And I'm like, okay. And by the way, I had just started like a month before. And I'm like, oh my God, how awesome. The CEO knows everything. He's like willing to give me money to fund the Cybertruck, but I'm like, okay, Cybertruck. I'm like, I don't know how many people this is gonna like. We had like 3 signups. We have to
Oh
give a
no.
50. Yeah, we have like a $50,000 vehicle we have to give away to somebody. So, okay, that was not a great move. However, I could blame myself for like maybe doing a shitty job on the promotion of it. But anyway, here we are. Um, some marketing successes. I would just say, like, without speaking to any one campaign specifically, I would say that most of the successes I've had come from like this philosophical view I have about just giving a lot to the prospect before you ask for anything in return. Like we don't gate any of our content. We do a lot of gift sending, whether that's like a Starbucks gift card for just like thanking them for like taking a call or like a Yeti for, like taking a meeting. Um, I think we, just like a relationship, we try to do a lot of deposits before we
Yeah.
like try to withdraw. And then the last I would just say is that most of the marketing we do feels more B2C in nature than it does B2B because I feel like a lot of B2B marketing has been like really boring and shitty. So we try to take a fun, kind of like new, fresh approach to that. So those have been some successes.
Okay. Wrapping it up on my do you hate losing or love winning?
Oh my God. I hate losing.
Yeah.
I hate losing. I think that that was the first thing that popped to my yeah, no. I I don't stand for it, but it uh, you know, like I said, I think it was definitely the characteristic that keeps me going inside of these tech companies because they're tough. So
Do you do you think that almost goes back to your soccer days as a defensive player? Like it was your job not to give up a
to
goal.
lose.
Not yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like if we were losing, it was because I let in the goal. So yeah,
All
hate
right.
losing. That's a great question, Chris.
My last one's what's your favorite food or meal? You are a Jersey girl at heart, so do not disappoint me on this one. I don't think you will.
Disco fries.
Disco fries. From where?
Wayne Hill's Diner.
Wayne Hills Diner. Okay. Do you get
That's
back
where
there
they're like as
enough?
off as I can yeah, as often as I can go. Doesn't
All
help with
right.
the LB, but it's delicious.
My worst interview question I've ever asked anyone, and I used to ask it a lot. If you could be one color, what color would you be?
Black. It's the easiest color to match with everything, so
All right, there we go. Black 2 weeks in a row. I got.
what about you?
Uh, green. Green's my favorite
Green?
color. I feel like it's my company's colors. The psychology behind it was it builds trust. It's the color of money.
Okay. Money?
So
I like
green,
that one.
yeah, green turtles are green. They're my favorite animal. There's a lot in there.
There's a lot. Yeah, okay. Good.
Uh, Andrew, where can people find you? Where should they hear more about you? Where could they learn from you?
LinkedIn is definitely the best place. And, just the natural spelling of my name will get you to my link.
Kayal, right? For anyone
Yes.
listening, not watching. Andrea,
Yep.
we appreciate it. This was episode 3. We tried to get you in early. I heard another podcast where you were a later guest, and we're unhappy about that. So we wanted to get you to be one of the first couple.
Well, thanks, Chris.
But
I'm
I know you're one
honored.
of the busiest CMOs in New York. I really, really appreciate your time. I hope there's somebody out there that this helped, and anything we could ever do for you, let us know. We really appreciate you being part of the community. That's it. Thanks so much.